We have been told our entire lives that empathy is the ultimate moral North Star, that the more you feel for others, the better a person you are. But what happens when that compassion becomes a cage? What happens when your ability to mirror someone else's pain actually prevents you from helping them? Or worse, starts to rot the very social fabric that it's supposed to mend? Today, we're going to step away from the heroic icons and we're going to look into a much darker, much more personal shadow. Today, we are going to talk about toxic empathy, the side of feeling that fuels performative virtue signaling, leads to total emotional burnout, and consistently fails the acid test of real world crisis. But, as always, before we dive into the psychology and the research behind the why too much empathy is a dangerous thing, please do me a favor and hit that like button on the way in and subscribe to the channel. It really helps these perspectives reach more people that may need to hear this. All right, well, let's get into this, shall we? Recently, we discussed on this channel toxic positivity, that forced good vibes only mask. Toxic empathy is the other side of that coin. It's when you lose the boundary between yourself and another person's suffering. In psychology, there's a distinction between cognitive empathy, understanding what someone feels, and affective empathy, which is actually feeling it. Toxic empathy is affective empathy gone rogue. Think of it like this. If you see someone drowning in a lake, empathy tells you that they're in pain. Toxic empathy makes you jump in and start drowning with them. Now, instead of one person drowning, one person in trouble and one rescuer, now you have two people drowning. And this isn't just a metaphor. Dr. Paul Bloom, professor of psychology at Yale and author of the book Against Empathy, The Case for Rational Compassion, argues that empathy is parochial and biased as a tool. It's like a spotlight. It illuminates one specific person or victim while leaving the rest of the world in the dark. When that spotlight is all we use to make decisions, we stop being rational. We start being performative. Now, this brings us to virtue signaling, which we now see everywhere. When empathy becomes social currency, it stops being about the person in pain and starts being about the person witnessing the pain. It's a performance of resonance. But when this kind of empathy is actually put to the test, it doesn't just bend, it breaks. I call this the acid test. In the real world, there are three specific ways this performative, ungrounded empathy falls when things get difficult. First, the empathy burnout. Because feeling everyone's plight is emotionally expensive, the toxic empathizer eventually hits a wall. You'll notice the virtue signaling stops the second it requires an actual sustained sacrifice. If it costs more than social media post, they disappear. The second is the conflict of victims. Toxic empathy lacks the hierarchy of logic. What happens when two groups you feel for have conflicting needs? Without rational framework, the system collapses into tribalism and who can cry the loudest. It becomes a competition of suffering rather than a search for a solution. Thirdly, you have the absence of efficacy. In a crisis, you don't need someone to cry with you. You need someone who can see the exit. Toxic empathy stays in the puddle with the victim rather than building a bridge to get them out. It prioritizes feeling the pain over fixing the problem. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology explores pathological altruism. This is the tendency to help others in ways that are actually harmful to the self, the recipient, or the society. When you see someone loudly proclaiming their empathy for a cause, ask yourself, is this for the victim, or is it to signal their own moral standing? Toxic empathy can't handle the truth because the toxic empathizer is so terrified of feeling the other person's discomfort. They will avoid necessary harsh truths to keep emotional peace. For those of you watching who feel like you're too sensitive or find yourself exhausted by the news, well, you might be experiencing what's called compassion fatigue. In a 2016 study by Klimecki and Singer, researchers used MRI scans to show that empathy training, where you're taught to feel the pain of others, activated the pain centers of the brain. It led to negative emotions and burnout. However, compassion training, the feeling for others without mirroring the pain, activated the reward and affiliation centers. Empathy burns you out. Compassion sustains you. Kind of what that TLDR is. If we look at this through a Jungian lens, because we like Carl Jung on this channel, this is the shadow of the creator. The part of us that wants to be seen as good and kind so badly that we refuse to set boundaries. We become enablers. We allow toxic behaviors to continue in our circles because feeling for them has blinded us to the objective reality of their actions. Sorry, brain got ahead of my mouth for a second. So the goal here isn't to stop caring. The goal is to move from empathy to rational compassion. We need to be the person on the shore with the rope, not the person in the water drowning. Or not. We need to be able to say, I understand your pain, but I will not be consumed by it. Because that is the only way we can actually be of service. Without that distance, you lose the perspective needed to be helpful. Now, I want to hear from you all in the comments. Have you ever felt that burnout from caring too much? Have you seen where empathy has been used as a shield for bad behavior or virtue signaling? Let's talk about it down below. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. And as always, if you found value in these deep dives, please remember to like and subscribe for the channel. Comment below your thoughts and make sure you ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next perspective that we tackle. And of course, if you want to support my work just a little bit more, down in the description area, there's going to be a link for buymeacoffee.com/perspectives of Jerry. Every little bit of caffeine helps me keep the light on here. As always, I am Jerry. This has been Perspectives of Jerry. I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.